Asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityorma amritam gamaya abhirabhirma yedhi rudra jate dakshinam mukham tenamam pahi nityam. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness to light. Lead us from death to immortality. Light us through and through, and guide us evermore with thy loving presence. Om, peace, peace, peace be unto all. Friends, we are lucky today we have a guest speaker. It is good time to time have some guest speaker, otherwise you will get bored hearing the Swamis all the time. Pravrajika Shuddhatmaprana is our nun. She is stationed in Ridgely Vivekananda Retreat in New York State. She is originally from St. Louis, as you know. She came several times and spoke here. So most people know her. And she is one of my editors. I am very grateful to her. Her father was also a very famous English professor and English poet. He also used to help me. Her mother also was a judge of roses. She used to buy rose plants for our garden. She used to ask us, show me, these are the roses. Wonderful family. And she is a disciple of Swami Sat Prakashananda. I knew her over 45 years. More than that. Anyhow, today she will speak on Holy Mother and Ramakrishna. That is her topic. She is a good writer, good editor. Anyhow, you will enjoy her talk. Thank you. Pravrajika Shuddhatmaprana.
Om Yatagnir Dahika Shakti Ramakrishna Stitahiya Sarvavidya Swarupangtang Sardang Pranamamyaham. Just as the burning power of fire resides in fire, so also you abide in Ramakrishna. To that Sarada, the embodiment of all knowledge, I offer my salutations. Some of you may be familiar with the hymn by Swami Abhedananda written to Sarada Devi. It begins, Prakating Paramang Abhayam Varadam. This beautiful hymn is frequently sung in the Ramakrishna Mission centers all over the world. And there's an interesting story connected with this hymn that was told by the writer, Swami Abhedananda himself. In May 1888, just 2 years after Ramakrishna's passing away, Sarada Devi was staying in Nilambar Babu's garden house. It was a rented house in those days. Now it's part of the Ramakrishna Mission. One day, Swami Abhedananda went there to see Holy Mother, and after telling her about a hymn he had just composed, he expressed his desire to recite it to her. According to Sri Sarada Devi and her divine play, Holy Mother was startled and asked, "What kind of hymn? Whose hymn?" Abhedananda humbly replied, "Mother, I composed a hymn on you." Amazed, the mother asked, "My son, what is the need for composing a hymn on me?" However, when Swami Abhedananda sincerely repeated his request, the mother calmly listened to the entire hymn. When the Swami recited Ramakrishna Shuddhatmapranam, whose soul is absorbed in Ramakrishna, the mother's whole body became motionless. When he recited Tannama Shravana Priyam, who loves to hear the Master's name, tears began to roll down from her eyes. And when he recited Tadbhava Ranjita Karam, whose mental state is saturated with the Master, the Swami saw that the mother was no longer there. Ramakrishna was seated in the place of Holy Mother. Here we should note that this idea of Sarada Devi being identified with Ramakrishna was held by all the direct disciples of Ramakrishna. When Holy Mother was in Vrindavan after Ramakrishna's passing away, she was often in high spiritual states. Swami Yogananda said, during such periods of ecstasy, her manner of speech, her voice, her way of taking food, her way of walking, and her general behavior were exactly like those of the Master. We all were surprised to see the spirit of Sri Ramakrishna united with hers. It was unique. We then realized that the Master and the Mother were one in essence, though appearing in separate forms. Again, it is said, Swami Sardananda wholeheartedly believed that Holy Mother's will was God's will. He never tried to change the Mother's will. He obeyed Holy Mother completely. He used to say, are the Mother and the Master different? Once someone asked Sardananda, do you respect the Mother because she is the wife of your Guru? The Swami replied, no, we respect her because she and the Master are one and the same. However, there is one difference. We could argue with the Master, but that is not possible with the Mother. But actually, this idea of Ramakrishna and Holy Mother being one and the same came from Ramakrishna himself. Once, shortly after Ramakrishna's passing away, M., the recorder of the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, was talking with Narendra, that is Swami Vivekananda. They were talking about Holy Mother, and Narendra told M., one day at the Kasipur garden house, the young devotees told the Master about the Holy Mother's affection for them. At that time, she was living at the garden house to serve the Master. And the disciples told the Master that they had never met another woman as large-hearted as she was. M asked then, what did the Master say? And Narendra said, the Master began to laugh, and then he said, she is my Shakti, so she loves all. And what is this Shakti? According to Ramakrishna himself, Shakti means the power of the Absolute. He often compared Brahman, the Absolute, and Shakti to fire and its power to burn. Speaking to M one day, the Master said, as fire and its power to burn are no different, so Brahman and Shakti are the same. The one, that is Brahman, has become many. That is the manifestation of Brahman's power. How is it possible to realize Brahman without taking refuge in Shakti? The words that are used to call on him, the sound that is used to worship him, those are all functions of Shakti. You, speaking to M, have originated from Shakti, and you move and walk by means of her power. So we can see that to Ramakrishna, Holy Mother, as his Shakti, was one with him, as fire and its burning power are one. Moreover, as we see here, Shakti is not only the power of Brahman, but also the mother of the universe. You have originated from Shakti, Ramakrishna told M. And to Ramakrishna, Holy Mother was this very Shakti, the mother of all. And this is why Ramakrishna said she loved all. But we should remember that just as Ramakrishna looked upon Holy Mother as the universal divine mother, Holy Mother also looked upon Ramakrishna as the universal Divine Mother. For instance, when the Master entered into Mahasamadhi at the Kasipur Garden House, Holy Mother heard the crying upstairs. And ordinarily she wouldn't leave her room like this, but because she realized what happened, she rushed up the steps and cried out, "Oh, Mother Kali, what have I done that you have departed, leaving me alone in this world?" Many years later, Holy Mother said to a disciple that she always looked upon the Master as Mother Kali. Yet to all outward appearances, Ramakrishna's and Sarada Devi's lives seemed totally different. Every day, people came to visit Ramakrishna and saw him merging into samadhi or singing and dancing in ecstasy. But in Holy Mother's life, such states were almost totally hidden. It's not that she never had samadhi or anything like that. It's just that most of her life was lived away from the gaze of the general public. Moreover, while Ramakrishna was the embodiment of renunciation and detachment, Holy Mother lived most of the time with her demanding relatives and seemed to be completely involved in their worldly lives. However, when we really examine Holy Mother's life, we find that these are very superficial judgments. Holy Mother was, in fact, not only the embodiment of Ramakrishna's teachings, but she also showed us how to live his teachings. In fact, you might say that Ramakrishna left Holy Mother behind to be the exemplar of his teachings. Here we'll look at a few aspects of her life that reveal her identity with Ramakrishna and how she exemplified his teachings. First, in her renunciation and desirelessness. In Akshay Chaitanya's book, Premananda Prema Katha, it is said, Holy Mother gave one of her disciples the Garua cloth, signifying that she gave him sannyas, monastic vows. She gave it with her own hands. And that disciple then went to Kashi, Varanasi. Swami Premananda was then staying there at Kashi. And another one of the sadhus there said to this disciple, Mother herself is not a sannyasi, so how could she give you sannyas? Now, Swami Premananda overheard this remark and immediately intervened in an agitated voice. If you can't recognize Mother's giving of the ochre cloth as sannyas, then I don't recognize your version of sannyas. Now, it's true, Holy Mother never took formal vows of sannyas, yet there is not any part of her life that is not illumined by her burning renunciation. The beauty of it is that she made her renunciation so simple, so natural, but this is why it is often overlooked. Even Akshay Chaitanya, who told the story about Swami Premananda, mentions elsewhere that Ramakrishna was predominantly an ideal for monastics, and Holy Mother was predominantly an ideal for householders. Now, Holy Mother herself made much of Ramakrishna's renunciation and even took it as his ideal for this age. Once someone praised Ramakrishna's message of the harmony of religions to her, and she replied, "My child, what you say about the harmony of religions is true, but it never seemed to me that he had practiced different religions with any definite motive of preaching the harmony of religions. Day and night, he remained overwhelmed with the ecstatic thought of God. He enjoyed the sport of the divine by practicing spiritual disciplines, following the paths of the Vaishnavas, Christians, Muslims, and the rest. But it seems to me, my child, that the special feature of the Master's life is his renunciation. Has anyone ever seen such renunciation?" Ramakrishna, in turn, also praised the Holy Mother's absolute purity and renunciation. For example, when Ramakrishna refused a devotee's offer of 10,000 rupees, it was proposed that Holy Mother take it instead. But in keeping with her vow to be a helpmate in his mission, she also refused it, saying that her acceptance of the money would be equivalent to Ramakrishna's acceptance. And Ramakrishna was very pleased at this. Now, this is a more obvious aspect of her renunciation, but it's when we look at other aspects of her life that we really begin to understand what is truly meant by her desirelessness and renunciation. Besides money and sense pleasures, the greatest traps for human beings are the desire for name and fame, the desire for honor, and the desire for power. In order to understand what Holy Mother renounced, let's look at her situation. Even before Ramakrishna's passing away, his name had begun to spread all over the world, but especially in India, and he was held in high regard. Even the well-known Saint Pavari Baba, who lived in Ghazipur, kept a photo of Ramakrishna in his cave. And in London, the renowned scholar and Indologist Max Muller became fascinated after hearing about Ramakrishna's life, and he immediately decided to write about him. Then, after Swami Vivekananda's success at the Parliament of Religions in Chicago, Ramakrishna's name began to spread even faster. With all this, Holy Mother could easily have been at the foreground, at the center of an international religious movement. She could have been adored and honored by millions in her lifetime all over the world. But she would have none of it. Instead, she preferred to spend most of her time in a remote village of India, cooking and cleaning, wearing simple clothes, living a simple life in a mud hut. Swami Gambhirananda gives us a glimpse of her daily life in Jairambati. He wrote, "At Jairambati, she tirelessly went through her daily routine, looking to the comforts of devotees, cutting vegetables in the morning for about 2 hours, taking supplies for the kitchen, arranging for the worship of the Master and then worshiping him with her own hands, distributing the prasad, making at least 100 betel rolls, kneading flour and preparing the chapatis and luchi, boiling milk, cleaning lamps, and such other works followed one another without intermission and without anybody else's help, as if they were her duty alone." So it's no wonder then that the people of her village of Jairambati took her to be one of them. On the surface, her life seemed hardly different from that of any other village woman. In April 1923, just 3 years after Holy Mother's passing away, there was a grand celebration in Jairambati for the dedication of Holy Mother's temple. As the festivities were going on in full swing, a village woman who had been a cousin of Sarada Devi was seen going through the crowd exclaiming, "All this could have been mine. All this could have been mine. My father refused to marry me to that crazy man," meaning Ramakrishna. "If he had given me in marriage to Ramakrishna, all this would have been mine." Now, the devotees attending the function there were, of course, amused. To this woman, Sarada Devi was no different from her, and if she had been married to Ramakrishna, all that honor would have been given to her, so she thought. In fact, during Holy Mother's lifetime, many of her fellow villagers could not understand what all the fuss was about. They could not understand Ramakrishna, what to speak of Sarada Devi. So they thought, why were people coming from far-off places to see their Sarada? What was so special about her? And why was this temple being built to her after her passing away? We find in the Bible that when Jesus came to preach in his hometown, the people would not pay any attention to him. They said to one another, "Is this not the carpenter's son?" Now, this is not to say that none of the villagers saw something of her greatness. She had, in fact, one neighbor, Banu Pishi, who adored Holy Mother and Ramakrishna from the very beginning, and she regarded Ramakrishna as her chosen deity, Krishna. But most of the villagers were mystified. One day, a villager asked Mother, "How many people come to see you, even from far-off places, but we are not able to understand you? Why is that?" Mother replied, "What does it matter? You are my friends, my playmates." Another man, an old watchman named Ambikacharan Bhagdi, once told Mother, "People call you a Devi, Bhagavati, and so on, but I don't understand anything." Mother replied, "There is no necessity for you to understand. You are my brother Ambika, and I am your sister Sarada." Actually, the villagers of Jairambati could not see anything special about Holy Mother because she did not want them to. She wanted to remain hidden. She wanted to live with them as one of them. So why did she live such a simple and ordinary life? Perhaps one reason was that she was setting an example that is sorely needed in these days. She was showing people how to live a simple, ordinary life, and how to be happy living a simple, ordinary life, all the while keeping the mind on God. Again, we should remember that when Swami Vivekananda came back to India in 1897 from the West and started the Ramakrishna movement, Holy Mother not only had every opportunity then to become the head of this fledgling movement, or even just exert a powerful influence over it, she also had every right. Swamiji himself worshipped her, and not just as his guru's wife or as his guru, he worshipped her as the Divine Mother herself. This is how he regarded her. We should note, however, that in spite of how much the disciples of Ramakrishna revered her, they did not publicize her. Perhaps this was at her request. Swami Satprakashananda used to say that Holy Mother's photographs were not available for sale to the public at all in those days, though Ramakrishna's and Swamiji's were. Holy Mother's photos were only given to known devotees. Swami Satprakashananda said he himself got a photograph of Holy Mother from Swami Premananda. Moreover, the disciples also did not speak about her except to known devotees. For the most part, she was kept hidden from the general public until her birth centenary in 1953. But still, during her lifetime, some people would hear about her from others and would come to her, even traveling the very difficult journey to Jairambati to meet her. And we should note that it's not that she never guided the monastic order. Sometimes her judgments were sought in important matters, and then her word was always taken as final. Yet still she preferred to remain in the background. One example can be given here. After Swami Vivekananda passed away, one of his disciples who lived at Advaita Ashram in Mayavati had doubts about the path of Advaita, non-dualism. As the ashram was dedicated solely to this path, he wrote to Holy Mother about his doubts. Her reply, written from Jairambati, continues to be of great importance to the Ramakrishna order and to the Advaita Ashram. She wrote, "He who was our guru," meaning Ramakrishna, "he was an Advaitist. You are all disciples of that guru, so you are also Advaitists. I can firmly say you are all surely Advaitavadis, followers of Advaita." Now, someone with only a casual acquaintance with Holy Mother's life might wonder how such an important issue with important consequences for the future of the order could be settled once and for all by a village woman. But it was. Just like Ramakrishna, she had the knowledge and she had the realization, and all the disciples of Ramakrishna knew it. Yet even in her knowledge and realization, we find proof of her renunciation. As Swami Vivekananda once said, knowledge is power. When you get knowledge, you get power. Here by knowledge, Swamiji was referring to spiritual knowledge, but in reality, this can apply to any kind of knowledge. As we have seen over and over again, the power and arrogance that can come from knowledge can be used for great harm. Holy Mother had that power, but like Ramakrishna, she would never think of using it for personal gain. Second, Holy Mother's oneness with Ramakrishna and her detachment. After Ramakrishna's passing away, Holy Mother became totally detached from this world. Gopesh Maharaj, Swami Sardeshananda, who was one of her attendants, described the difference between this period of her life, right after Ramakrishna's passing away, with the later period. In the early days, he said, after the passing away of the master, she would often be in samadhi. Then her body would be like an inert object. Golap Ma and Yogan Ma, her women attendants, would move her body from one place to another like a portrait being moved. She would have no sense of her body. The devotees would make pranams to her, offer money, clothes, fruits, etc. at her feet, but she remained unmindful of all these things. Her companions and attendants would take care of these things. Other people would use them when needed, but she would never inquire about them. But after her niece Radhu was born, then at Ramakrishna's command, Mother's mind came down to the normal plane. She started playing the role of a householder and took up the responsibilities of her family. Thus, as Gopesh Maharaj says, she experienced the misery and sufferings of a family life. According to one of her relatives, before Radhu was born, the mother would look like a veritable goddess, and one would hesitate to approach her. Yet even in her later life, when she was involved with her family, she retained a detached spirit with respect to everything around her. Gopesh Maharaj again wrote, though the mother lived night and day amidst the various activities of her household and was as outwardly engrossed as any one of the other inmates in the work and responsibility of the home, she would remain completely unattached in her heart. The household was, in her view, the master's. One had to remain in it, playing the part one was allotted. As Mother said, good and bad, joy and sorrow came and passed off according to one's karma. Without getting disturbed in mind by thinking about them, one should keep one's devotion to God steady and bear everything that came with patience. One should shake off the attachment for worldly objects as the ducklings shake off water from their bodies. As Gopesh Maharaj said, these teachings were always conveyed by the mother's instructions, behavior, and actions. Again, like Ramakrishna, Holy Mother was totally detached from money. We have already mentioned that she would not even look at the offerings people gave her in the earlier days, but even in her later days, when she was the mistress of a large household at Jairambati, she never took any interest in the money that was given to her or sent by mail. Whatever money was received, she picked up and put in a box without counting it. And whatever was needed for purchases, she took out of the box without counting it. There was no calculation of receipts and expenditures at all. In the rare instances when she herself purchased something from someone coming to the house, she would just hand them some money and let them decide how much money they should take for the object. In 1909, Holy Mother's brothers, with whom she was living in Jairambati, decided to divide up the family property, giving each brother a share. Now, As is not uncommon in such events, the brothers got into terrible quarrels. And eventually, Swami Saradananda had to come from Calcutta to help arbitrate this division. Swami Gombarananda wrote, relying fully on Swami Saradananda's judgment and direction, the mother kept her mind absolutely above these worldly turmoils. Drawing attention to this equipoise of the mother, based as it was on spiritual insight, Swami Saradananda said to a brahmachari, you have seen us often enough, how we flare up at seeing our slightest wish disregarded. But look at the mother. What a hell her brothers are creating, and yet how calm and collected she is at all times. Now, in those days, a woman, especially a widow, lived, under this, you might say, as she had a male brother or something as a guardian. Now, when Holy Mother was asked by another of the arbitrators where she would live and with whom, which brother she would live with, she simply replied, rats bore holes and snakes live therein. That's all she said. However, as her answer was not enough to settle the issue, they allotted her a house on the property of one of the brothers. It's true that for many years, Mother had a strong attachment to her niece, Radhu, but her biographies make it clear that she deliberately took on this attachment to keep her mind in the world. And she did this, as we said, at Ramakrishna's command. When her mind was continually soaring in high spiritual states, Ramakrishna appeared to her in a vision and told her to hold on to Radhu, to use Radhu as a support in this world, to keep her mind down. Now, right before Holy Mother passed away, when she no longer wanted that support, she asked that Radhu be sent away. Now, third, Holy Mother's oneness with Ramakrishna in her love for all and her eagerness to free all human beings from the bondages of the world. In Swami Saradananda's biography of Ramakrishna, he describes how the master used to go to the roof of the owner's cottage in Dakshineshwar in the evening and cry out in agony for his disciples to come. Come to me, my children, he said. Where are you? I can't bear to live without you. And gradually they did start to come. Now, regarding this, Swami Akhandananda, one of his disciples, later said that Ramakrishna's cry for his devotees did not end after the coming of his immediate disciples. Swami Akhandananda said, that cry is still ringing through the air and shall continue for eons. Many have come after that, many are still coming, and many more will come in the future. In Holy Mother's life also, we hear of how she yearned for the devotees to come to her, especially when she was living in Jairambati. Swami Nikolananda wrote, a silent yearning constantly welled up from her heart. Come, all of you, I am here for your sake. I shall soothe my heart, showing you the way to liberation. She did not, Swami Nikolananda said, publicly summon devotees, but drawn by her irresistible attraction, they came. She seemed to be waiting for them. If no devotee came to her on a particular day, she would say, no one has come. This day seems to be passing in vain. And very shortly, a seeker would arrive. There's also a beautiful incident described by Gopesh Maharaj in his book, The Mother as I Saw Her. One of her attendants, possibly Gopesh Maharaj himself, he was once asked to read aloud a Bengali manuscript of the story of Dhruva. This is a story that is found in the Bhagavata Purana about a little boy who is the son of a king by the king's second wife. Now, the son of the king's first wife was favored by the king, and this made Dhruva very unhappy. Unable to bear the humiliation from the king's first wife, Dhruva took leave of his own mother and went to the forest to propitiate Vishnu in order to gain the king's favor. Now, at every step in the story, as the reading was going on, Holy Mother became more and more distraught, hearing about this little boy's suffering. And she would start crying as she identified with the incidents in the little boy's life. And every time she started crying, the reader would stop until Holy Mother recovered. Then the reader came to the description of Dhruva's severe austerities and of his frightful experiences in the forest. The heart of that small boy was trembling with fear, and he was crying helpless and alone. Taking Dhruva as her own little son, Holy Mother again began shedding tears, torrents of tears. It was only after much effort that she was able to control herself. And the reader then started his reading again. But the very next moment, on Dhruva's picture coming before Holy Mother's eyes, she again burst out crying. Soon she became very much agitated, as if her heart and soul were running to protect Dhruva in that deep forest at dead of night. Those assembled for the reading, including the reader, were dumbfounded, seeing this unique expression of sorrow. After some time, they left the place quietly. The reading had to be stopped. Every heart there was steeped in sorrow. Gopesh Maharaj says, "For whom? Who will answer?" For whom? I think we can say Holy Mother's tears were for all of us, for all of her children who have lost their way in the frightful forest of this world. And just as Ramakrishna's cries for his children to come still ring through the air, so also I believe that cry of Holy Mother is still ringing through the air. That moment in her life remains in the subtle atmosphere as a tearful prayer for all of her children everywhere to be saved from the terrible forest of this world. Moreover, just as Ramakrishna's call reverberated throughout the world and was for people of all races, nationalities, and faiths, so also was Holy Mother's call. It seemed that she carried the whole world, all beings of this world, in her heart. Earlier, we mentioned the incident about the young monastic disciples talking to Ramakrishna about Holy Mother, and Ramakrishna called her Holy Mother his Shakti, and he also told M, then, "You have originated from Shakti, and you move and walk by means of her power." So we can see that to Ramakrishna, Shakti was not only power, but was also the mother of the universe. "You have originated from Shakti," he told M. And to Ramakrishna, Holy Mother was this very Shakti, the mother of all. And this is why, as Ramakrishna said, she loved all. Now, this mood of being the mother of all was not something that came to Holy Mother in later years, after Ramakrishna's passing away. It seemed to have been natural to her even when she was a child. In 1864, when she was 11 years old, a terrible famine broke out in Jairambati. Holy Mother recalled, "Many starving people came to our house for food, as our previous year's surplus rice was stored in a bin. My father arranged to have several potfuls of khichdi made with that rice, mixing it with lentils. Sometimes the hungry people came in such numbers that the khichdi ran short, and a fresh supply had to be cooked. When the fresh, hot khichdi was served on the leaf plates, I used to fan it to cool it off quickly. People suffered unbearable pains, hunger pains, as they waited." In her early days in Dakshineshwar, Holy Mother did not have many companions. But even then, there was a group of fisherwomen who became devoted to her and loved her very much. Holy Mother became very close to these women, and the women also, completely forgetting caste differences, took Holy Mother to be their very own and called her mother. In fact, you might say that Holy Mother had a unique and a very special relationship with these women. Later, when Ramakrishna's young disciples started coming, the mood of a mother became so manifest that she sometimes even disobeyed the master. Generally, Holy Mother cooked for the master's disciples when they were at Dakshineshwar, but the master was very strict about how much they ate. He even told the Holy Mother how many pieces of chapati each of them should be given. Rakal was to be given 6 pieces, Latu was to be given 5, and 4 each for Senior Gopal and Babaram. Now, even though Babaram was supposed to get 4 pieces, Holy Mother would give him 6. When the master came to know about it, he immediately went to the Nahabat, where Holy Mother stayed, and complained that her indiscreet affection might hinder Babaram's spiritual development. Holy Mother firmly replied, "Why are you so worried because he had 2 extra chapatis? I shall look after his future. Please don't make an issue about his food." Later in her life, of course, we know that all those who came to her, whether disciples or devotees or workers or people suffering unbearable problems, to her, all of them were her children. In fact, Holy Mother made it very clear. There was no discrimination in her love. Just as Swami Sardananda was her son, so also the Muslim robber Amzad was her son. Just as the people of India were her children, so also were the British and everyone else. One of the most amazing stories about Holy Mother, I believe, illustrates this. One day, a woman devotee said to Holy Mother, "Now so many men and women are calling you mother, mother, and disturbing you. Though we are not born from your womb, that does not mean we are not your children." Immediately, Holy Mother stood up. She was stirred. She said firmly, "What did you just say? That you were not born from my womb? Then from whose womb were you born? Are you not my children? Then whose children are you? Is there any mother other than me? I exist in all women and in all mothers. Those who come to me from any place are all my children. Know it for sure and certain. Those who come to me calling me mother, they are all my children." Wow. She had been saying this all the time, but who listened? So now she had to make it crystal clear. All people everywhere on this planet are her very own children. They are her children. They were her children, and they will be her children. Fourth, Holy Mother's oneness with Ramakrishna in her vision as a Vijnani. In the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, we see the Master giving much emphasis to the idea of Vijnana, that is, seeing God in all things and beings. He again and again states that this is the true goal of spiritual life. Swami Vivekananda also emphasized this, that to worship all beings as God is the highest worship. But we should note that this state of Vijnana is not just about seeing God in everyone and everything outside of us. It is also about seeing God within ourselves. In fact, seeing the divine in ourselves is fundamental to seeing the divine outside us, as only then can we realize what true divinity is. Once when a monk asked Mahapurush Maharaj Swami Shivananda how he could see God in everything, Mahapurush replied, "My son, you will have to see God in your own heart first. How can it be possible to see him in all things outside unless you can see him first within yourself? When one is firmly established in one's realization of him as the self, one can see him everywhere, inside and outside. Then only will one attain the state described as the whole universe is full of Brahman. To illustrate this process, Ramakrishna used the example of going up to the roof of a house. He said, first of all, you must discriminate following the method of neti, that is, not this, not this. Brahman is not the 5 elements, nor the sense organs, nor the mind, the intelligence, nor the ego. He is beyond all these cosmic principles. You want to climb to the roof, then you must eliminate and leave behind all the steps, one by one. The steps are by no means the roof, but after reaching the roof, you find that the steps are made of the same materials, brick, lime, and brick dust, as the roof. Similarly, after attaining the knowledge of Brahman, then one sees it is the supreme Brahman that has become the universe and its living beings and the 24 cosmic principles. After attaining Vijnana, one can live in the world as well. Then one clearly realizes that God himself has become the universe and all living beings, that he is not outside the world. So it is after reaching the roof that we see the steps as made of the same material. That is, after realizing the divine within, then we will be able to see the divine in all things and beings. We don't actually know when Holy Mother became aware of her divinity. As mentioned before, it must have been very early in her life, probably when she was just a child. Moreover, with her, the knowledge of her divinity and her identification of herself as the mother of all may have been spontaneous and may have come at the same time. But one thing seems certain. After realizing that divinity within, she manifested that divinity as the Divine Mother, the mother of all. She lived as that divinity, and through that, she could see it in others and see all as her children. Though we do not find in her conversations that Holy Mother talked about Vijnana, this is what she is showing us in her life, that we must first realize the divine within us, be that divine, live it, and this is how we can see it in others. After all, religion is not about what happened many years ago to someone else far away. Religion is about who we really are right now. That divine is right with us every moment of our lives, and we are presented with the divine at every step, at every moment. So every step, every moment presents us with an opportunity, no matter how mundane that moment might seem. Moreover, this means that all our daily mundane decisions about our life have everything to do with religion, because how we make our decisions and choices has everything to do with how we regard ourselves and how we regard others. It was Holy Mother's awareness of who she was and what her relationship to others was that is the hallmark of her life. And this awareness had everything to do with her experience of herself and of others as divine, and of herself as the universal mother. So the secret to Holy Mother's life was her union of the idea of a mother, a universal mother, with this self-awareness. This was not just a superimposition of a mood. It was not something she worked at. Her awareness of herself as divine and her awareness of herself as the universal mother were one and the same. She knew herself to be the universal divine mother, and she knew all beings were her divine children. So it is awareness that it is everything. If a person can continually be aware of herself or himself as divine, then what mundane desires could that person possibly have? None at all. That person is self-fulfilled, Atmarama, rejoicing in the Supreme Self. And because there are no desires, there are no afflictive emotions, anger, jealousy, hatred. And this is why there are no barriers between oneself and others. And this is why Holy Mother could love all. Yet there is another aspect to this. One day, Holy Mother said, "Do you know what I have once seen? I have seen that Thakur is Ramakrishna. I have seen that Thakur alone has become all. Whatever direction I look, I see Thakur. Thakur has taken the form of the lame, the blind, and all. There is none but Thakur. So I see that it is all his creation, and it is he who exists in different forms. It is he, not the jivas, who has been suffering. That is why I have to save all those tormented souls, whoever comes to me. It is like my helping him with his means." So here we see how truly she was Ramakrishna Gata Pranam, totally immersed in Ramakrishna. She was immersed in him, in fact, so much that she saw him in everyone and everything. This is a particularly wonderful vision of a Vijnani. So Holy Mother not only had that vision of the Vijnani, but she also showed all of us how to have it through the ideal of loving all. As we said before, she was the exemplar that Ramakrishna left for us. This is the ideal that Ramakrishna asked all of us to reach. This was his ideal of realization for the modern world. Motherliness and compassion. We hear a lot about the word compassion. They're all good, but we have to remember the level that Holy Mother took those qualities to, and also what was behind those qualities. She was the ideal we should look up to. Thank you.